I'd like to call to order the General Administration and Personnel Committee on this October 10th, 2016. May we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Vandenberg.
Present.
Vice Chairman Stanton. Trustee Mills.
Present.
Trustee Newell.
Present.
Trustee Palafis.
Present.
Trustee Gata.
Present.
Mayor McLeod.
Thank you. We have a quorum. I would like to entertain a motion for the approval of minutes on September 12th, 2016.
So moved.
I'll second.
Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it.
Been a while.
Under new business, we have 4 items. Item number 1, request approval of full-service professional printing services to Press Tech, Des Plaines, Illinois, for complete production of the monthly Citizen newsletter for both 2017 and 2018, with an option for 2019.
So moved.
I'll second.
Monroe, would you like to give us a little update on this?
Sure. Thank you. Good evening. I'll be quick. We put out an RFP for printing services for the Citizen newsletter, and for a 2-year agreement for service, and we received 6 proposals back, and we did provide the information to Hoffman Estates printers, and they declined to enter a proposal. So we did try immediate local. But the other printers are all relatively local as well. And so this is a 2-year agreement. We evaluated based on various components, mostly cost, references, general location, in reference to Hoffman Estates, and as well as the quality of examples that they gave. So after all of that, it was extremely tight cost-wise, extremely tight in terms of examples, and ultimately we went with references, and all things being equal, staff selected Press Tech, which was just slightly less than the second lowest as well. So it's for your consideration, and we'll do whatever you like.
Thank you. I'm surprised that Plum Grove Printers was not on that list.
They were one of the Hoffman Estates printers, and they said thank you for the invitation, but they weren't interested in this particular job.
Okay.
They've declined the last 2 times.
I'm sorry to hear that. Are there any questions from the board? Trustee Stanton?
You indicated that you did see a sample of their work?
Yes.
And is it similar to what we've been receiving so far through the mail?
Yeah, each of the printers provided several examples, and so we saw a variety of examples. I talked to the people that have them printed, so I'm trying to think. I talked to various school districts. I talked to the Village of Buffalo Grove. I talked to Maine Township. So the examples are relatively similar to what we have, and we'll continue to see exactly the same paper stock and the same style, the same structure of the booklet that we receive now. So they'll be using the same materials.
So basically, you won't notice any difference, really?
We should not see a difference.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Trustee Newell.
Quick one. The last printer here that turned in the RFP was extremely high. Is there any reason why that would be? Most of the other ones were within, give or take, a little bit as far as dollars and cents, but this one was like almost 16,000 more.
Yeah, I'm not 100% as to why they are so much higher. Their name is Digital Hub, and so a lot of the time it costs a little bit less to do digital printing, so they may be less familiar with the request that we made, or if it's our particular type of printing, we use offset printing, so it could be that they just had
They don't do that.
higher cost in providing that service.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Trustee Gata.
Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Gata.
Yeah, I just have, I'm noticing on the ranking here, all right, on the 8 page, there was 1, 12 page was 1. Then on the 16 page, why'd you only give them a 3?
Bless you.
That particular ranking is for the cost. So their cost to print the 16-page issue in in June, was just slightly higher than the others. So that cost, 8-page ranked 12 and 16 are all based upon the cost per issue for that number of pages printed.
So they were number 3 for the 16-page,
Yes,
and Paulson was number 1.
yes. So it overall, it all, kind of came out the same. And
Right.
so,
Just curious.
Yep.
That was all. Thank you.
sure.
So Trend came in last on everything. Our current supplier, did they just feel like they had it, or?
I'm not sure
That's odd.
what their thought process was, but they said that they would match what they've been doing for us the last 2 years, and it just happened to be much, higher than the other proposals came in.
Okay.
Seeing none, we do have a motion on the floor. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
2, request acceptance of cable TV monthly report.
So moved.
I'll second.
Questions from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 3, request acceptance of human resources management monthly report.
So moved.
I'll second.
Questions from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And lastly, number 4, request acceptance of legislative operations and outreach monthly report.
So moved.
I'll second.
Are there any questions on Jen's report? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item number 3, President's report.
Nothing else, trustee Vandenberg.
Number 4, we do not have any other items or items in review, so I will ask for an adjournment.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and we are adjourned.
Like to call. Come on, work.
No.
No, it's him.
Call to, again. I'd like to call to order the Transportation and Road Improvement Committee for the Village of Hoffman Estates on this October 10th, 2016. Roll call, please.
Chairman Stanton.
Present.
Vice Chairman Mills.
Present.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Present.
Trustee Newell.
Present.
Trustee Palafis.
Present.
Trustee Gata.
Present.
Mayor McLeod.
Thank you, we have a quorum. Approval of the minutes of September 12th, 2016.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Anybody notice any corrections or deletions that need to be made? Seeing none and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. New business, discussion regarding Phase 1 engineering of Central Road Bicycle Path Project. Michael?
Yes, thank you. What we're looking for this evening is feedback from the board on direction as to whether we should begin the Phase 1 engineering for connections along Central Road bike path. The goal is to provide a linkage between the Forest Preserve path and Paul Douglas on the east across the south part of the prior AT&T property to link into the crossing Central Road that would be roughly in the middle of the Claire's property to link into the upcoming Pace Park and Ride facility. There are also some on-street facility designations on Lakewood and Eagle Way. We are looking for direction since this was
Yeah, the
looking
same
for
problem I
direction,
have.
yeah. Since it was not included in the 2016 budget for authorization to proceed with the Phase 1 engineering with the goal of completing that in time for the next upcoming funding cycle of either the Transportation Alternatives Program or the CMAQ or Access to Transit programs. Those are all federal grants that provide 80% of funding for Phase 2 engineering, the final design, as well as construction and construction engineering. Unfortunately, there is no funding available for the Phase 1 engineering. So what we were proposing, should the board decide to proceed, is to use an allocation of funds from the Central Road Corridor Fund that was created a number of years ago and was being targeted for use for the interchange. It looks like there's going to be some leftover funds in that account, so the proposal would be to access those remaining funds in the Central Corridor fund and use that to begin the Phase 1 engineering. We may have an opportunity through Cook County to use one of their, I believe they had 3 pre-screened or pre-qualified consultants that meet all the federal selection requirements. So if Cook County is agreeable, we'd be able to save some time in moving ahead with the commencing the Phase 1 engineering.
Do the costs change if we do not use a pre-qualified consultant?
May not change, but then you potentially have to have a whole new engineer to do Phase 2 and final engineering, which you don't want to do if you want to qualify for the grants.
Okay. And when would we be expected to pay the consultant? At the end of his work or before the work?
It's a progress payment.
Yeah.
Pay as you go.
Kind of like attorneys.
That was good.
That was a good one.
I don't know, I know some attorneys that never get paid, so.
Not any in this room, though.
Not the one on this dais.
Trustee Palafis.
I think the timing is good in terms of Mr. Hankey's request. And, you know, we have Trump building. The imminent something or other will happen with AT&T in that campus. Also, Schaumburg is building an arch extending, like a bike bridge, if you will, from Roselle over to the bike path in the Forest Preserve. So that area has the potential to be very popular. And I think, just my opinion, that walkway we have that's going to go over for the pay stop, people are going to try carrying their bikes up, across, and then down. And if we can, you know, allow for some of these paths, I think that would help, you know, people that are going to try to be innovative in the way they, you know, cross the highway. So, nevertheless.
Trustee Gata, did you have a question?
Yeah, actually, what is it going to cost us, the village?
So the cost for the Phase 1
The down-
engineering
yes.
Estimated at $75,000.
Because that's what it's saying here.
Right. And then,
About 65,000 to 75,000.
That's approximately what we should have left in the Central Road Corridor Fund. So should there be a shortage, we could try to negotiate the scope down, perhaps take out the on-street facilities from the grant application and just do those ourselves.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, I guess there's a there's a request for direction. How do we do this?
I can make a motion
Okay.
that we ask staff to proceed with the, I guess, the next step of, you know, looking at the 3 different county-approved, federally approved.
Yeah.
Do you want to say the motion? And I'll just say, so moved.
Direct
Motion to
staff
begin Phase 1
to
engineering.
solicit proposals
There you go.
for the Central Road Bicycle Path Phase 1 engineering, and if possible, utilize existing Cook County pre-qualified engineers.
That's what I was going to say next.
I'll second that.
So moved.
Sounds good to you as well, huh? Okay. All those in favor of the motion and second, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right.
Thank you.
Second on our agenda is request acceptance of the Transportation Division monthly report.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Anybody notice anything that they want to bring out? Any discussion at all? Hearing none, all those in favor of the report, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. President's report?
Nothing else, Trustee Stan.
And we have nothing in other items in review, so I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor of the adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
I'd like to call to order the Planning, Building, and Zoning Committee meeting for October 10th, 2016. The secretary, please call the roll. Chairman Mills.
Present.
Vice Chairman Vandenberg.
Present.
Trustee Stanton.
Present.
Trustee Noel.
Present.
Trustee Palafis.
Present.
Trustee Gata.
Present.
Mayor McLeod.
Present.
First item of business tonight is approval of the minutes of September 12th, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any corrections? Anything noticed in here? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. New business this evening. Number 1, consideration of participation in Next Level Northwest, our regional business accelerator partnership. And Mr. Kramer, I see you're ready to give us a presentation.
I do have a presentation. Thank you again. I'll try and be brief. This is a presentation that's actually been given to all of these communities that you see. It's a partnership that staff has been attending meetings for several months now in 2016, looking at forming this regional plan for business growth within the northwest suburbs. This quote by this professor at UC Berkeley, he did this study of cities between 1984 and 2012, and found that with innovation and collaboration, cities grew, and those that didn't have that, they ended up stalling on their growth. And the growth regions in his study were Silicon Valley, which is no surprise, New York, Boston, and the Austin, Texas area. But the Chicago metro area was not on that list. Innovation and collaboration are really drivers of building strong communities. And that was kind of the gist of his study. So with that in mind, there's this paradigm shift happening in local economic development right now. And it's a move from incentives to business support. And it's more cost efficient and cost effective really to retain and grow the existing businesses we have here than to go out and attract new ones. And municipalities with our limited resources, we have to add existing value. And with the state of Illinois, I'm not going to go too in-depth into this, but you know the state isn't in a great situation. And so when a business from outside the region is looking at, I want to move to the Midwest, it doesn't help when Illinois has the situation it has. So we kind of have to look at more of a regional approach within the northwest suburbs here to give these businesses really a reason to move here and a reason to stay and to grow here. So the situation, like I said, municipalities, we can't depend on the state of Illinois or necessarily Cook County when a lot of the businesses complain about the Cook County taxes. Like I said, the tax structure and the tax state of Illinois isn't all that great, so we have to do something. And the municipalities in this type of realm can do much better if they work together and collaboratively as we've been talking with these 8 communities, rather than just on our own. So we look at creating a business accelerator. That's the answer. Public Management Magazine noted that a 400% ROI exists for governments that invest in accelerating small businesses. And collaboration will accelerate business growth across the region, not just in Hoffman Estates. It won't just accelerate it in Schaumburg or Hanover Park or any of these others. It'll really help everybody. And when you think about it, if a business in Hanover Park expands, chances are their employees are probably going to live in Hoffman Estates. So that's jobs for Hoffman Estates residents. That's jobs for any of the residents in the area, but that also means that those employees then are going to shop here and eat here. So it's a good thing as a whole. In short, accelerating business growth has to be a mission of local municipal governments. And I say acceleration, not business incubation. Incubator are for startups, are for the guy who says, hey, I want to start my own company. Business incubators help them. This is for the companies that may have 4, 5, 6 years of experience so far, and they're doing really well, but they need that extra step to take it to the next level. They need a little bit of help there. So the whole region has over 400,000 people in it, and over 20,000 businesses here in these different communities. So there's a definite need here to grow some of these 20,000 businesses. So the mission of Next Level Northwest, like I said, it's a collaborative regional acceleration partnership, an independent nonprofit public-private partnership. The core elements of its mission really are to accelerate growth of these stage 2 companies and facilitate the ongoing learning that leads to continuous innovation and growth that I talked about earlier. And then the entity itself will deliver value through the support, wisdom, and continuous learning of those businesses, as well as engage best practices within the communities and the regions. So in terms of leadership and governance here, like I said, it's going to be a nonprofit partnership that begins with the municipal leadership. By having the managers of all the villages as partners, they'll be permanent board members. So each village will have an equal stake in the board. The board also focuses on the critical organizational leadership, alignment, and risk management that must exist to coordinate efforts across the region. So they'll not only include, like I said, the managers from all the villages, but it'll also include the various business leaders who have run successful businesses and know how to grow a business to give guidance on the board. And then from their staff, the group will hire a full-time executive director, and then from their support staff as well. In terms of a toolbox, I'm always looking for extra tools to help businesses grow and even to bring new ones in. So this is a critical component of that toolbox in that it really helps support, as you can see there, support the business. It provides them wisdom and then continuous learning. And right now the toolbox has me and the resources we have, has the small business development centers, has SCORE, has the Chamber of Commerce, a lot of different things, but it doesn't necessarily have what we would offer through the accelerator here. And that is working with the SBDC to take it the next step further. So as you can see, a company would come in and formally apply to be a part of the program, and then the selection process would narrow those companies down to where we would then have a pitch night for those companies. The pitch night picks 2 or 3 companies, and then the organization works with those companies on a formal mentoring, and then from there engages a plan to say, this is how you're going to get from stage 2 to stage 3. And oftentimes, they know their business. They don't necessarily know how to get to the next stage from the business side of things. So that's the finance, that's the HR, the risk management. Those types of things are what they usually need help with. In terms of the execution, this rests with the master design team, which is myself and my counterparts from the other municipalities, along with leaders from the community, like I said, the chamber, the SBDC, the executive director of the program. Phase 1, as you can see, involves the immediate short term that helps business leaders to solve problems. This phase also includes the 3 core processes from application through the selection and action plan. And then you have phase 2 here. So this is the ongoing development, this collaborative effort for the mentoring and the coaching, and then the developing of the plan and implementing the plan. So timeline, where are we right now? This timeline depicts where we are now. The red line is where we are, and that's trying to get this thing off the ground. Before we, like I said, it's going to be a nonprofit 501c3, and before the group really takes the step forward to develop that, we want the buy-in from all the municipalities. We want to know who wants to be a part of this, really. So just kind of, as you can see from stage 1, the plan is to be done with the 501c3 process by mid next year is when the organization would be formed, and that's when we can then start taking private donations from outside companies and really start that, like it says there, the organizational framework to help some of these companies. So critical success factors, how are we going to measure these things? Businesses can expect to increase revenues and generate more jobs, which leads to more innovation and growth, as well as a sustainable competitive edge for Hoffman Estates and for the greater region. Each community can expect growth in the business community, increased attractiveness to new businesses. Like I said, it's not only a business retention thing, but it really is a toolbox for business attraction as well. So the community investment. To be successful, the accelerator must be community-based and focused. So we need the buy-in from the SBDC, from the chambers, from business associations, from all the different groups that are going to help at the pitch night level, help at the mentor level, at the coaching level. The SBDC advisors help individual company leaders prepare their pitches. Like I said, then it goes on to the pitch night where there may be 3 or 4 pitches from different companies, similar to Shark Tank. Have you guys seen that show? So each one of those is a pitch, so it would be something like that, trying to help the companies get to the next level. So what's the return on the investment? So the return is pretty significant. At the community level, we should see aggregate revenue and jobs increased anywhere from 100 to 600%, which is consistent with the research done by the UC professor. And then each community serves as this force multiplier for the region. Again, so like I said, if companies grow here in Hoffman Estates, it's going to benefit the region. If they grow in Arlington Heights, it's still going to benefit the region. It's going to, as a whole, lift us all up. The rising tide lifts all boats, quote. So anyway, that was the brief rundown. Next Level Northwest is, I think it's really a winning proposition for all stakeholders here. And I would recommend, I just want to know your thoughts on it, I guess. So, sorry, I know we're running late, but.
That's okay. Trustee Palafis.
So I emailed Kevin and Mr. Norris earlier today with the concerns about the last group of, that we were in with this were, I called it Schaumburg-centric.
Yeah.
Because, my concerns were that, the gravitational pull is, their world. So my first concern was the fact that they were one of the 8. Nevertheless, it brings me, a higher level of confidence to see that, each municipality will have equal membership with the 8 managers. However, the 8 business leaders, how will they get chosen or appointed? Or, do they go out and recruit those folks? Do the mayors appoint them? Who's on that executive committee, if you will? Is really my first question. Do you know that? Do you have insight into that yet?
We haven't decided, and a lot of these fine details are still up in the air. It will be an equal representation from the businesses. So it's not going to be, 4 business people from Schaumburg and nobody from Hoffman Estates. It will be, and that was something that Jim and I were hammering on probably longer than any other town was, we want to make sure that this is equal. Even up to a couple months ago, we were still asking those questions of how do we make sure that we get the same stake as everybody else? And that after year 2 or 3 that, we're kind of left in the dust and everybody else is moving on.
There were 2 main issues that several of us were concerned about. Trustee Palafis hit on one, just because of the sheer size of Schaumburg. And what's interesting is that a large group of these communities also are in that Northwest Technical Group I serve on that distributes the road grant money. And that group does a really excellent job of making sure that it does get spread around to communities, but it's still based on merit. We don't come up with projects that don't get to a certain number of points when you do a quantitative ranking on what that project should do. So that was one of the reasons that we pushed it so hard. The second big issue that we really pushed on was the whole ROI, the return on investment, because one of the other groups that we have participated in the seed funding for, we see a little bit of the return on investment, but not nearly as much as that is what we hope to get here. And the other thing is, we want to see that seed money, that 3 years of $15,000, actually end after 3 years. We're the other group that I'm thinking of, we're probably going to continue with one more donation next year of half that amount. So that was a huge concern, and everybody heard it. Everybody agreed. We haven't figured out totally how the business community is going to be, the business leaders are going to be engaged, trustee Palafis, at this point in time. I think some of it's going to have to do with people that actually are willing to have successful businesses that are way beyond stage 2, that have gone through stage 2, stage 3, and want to mentor, and will have the time to mentor, but also will bring, in all honesty, financial resources into the mix as well. So I don't want to call it a buy-in, but there has to be a donation of time, funds, and talent for those members.
So I had 2 more thoughts to share. The ROI came to my mind as well. I love ROI. And this UC Berkeley guy is talking about 400%. So net, we're going to see $200,000 out of our $50,000 investment. Over what period of time? And maybe that's a question to him because it's his number. But did they discuss like the timeline for that ROI, or is it just something they threw against the wall that,
I think it was probably something they threw against the wall, but I guess one thing I was thinking about is, okay, think if this does take off, and it's going for 10, 15, 20 years, even just say it goes for 10 years, you average out that $45,000 over 10 years, and if you're, say you have 3 companies that you pick every year to be part of your program from Hoffman Estates, and they hire, a total combined, 10 employees over each year. So, I mean, you're still getting 100 employees, and that's probably the bare minimum, but 100 extra jobs that are being generated that wouldn't have been generated otherwise. Not to mention the expansion that they're taking over more space, that then you're just having a more supply and demand issue with your office space or whatever it is, so.
Which brings me to my third question, and I'm glad you kind of led me there. So I'm all for this, just for the record. I'm not probing this to tear it apart. But how well do we as a village know our own metrics? So, because we always talk in my industry that you can't manage what you can't measure. So do we know today, we have 42,108 employees that work in this town, and 3 years from now, if we have 47,000, we can pin it to the success of this program. I guess that's the metrics I'm looking for, because otherwise, you don't know where the finish line is, and if or when you ever did get 400% ROI or 1,000% or 20, so.
I think in terms of measuring the employees, we would just do it with the companies that are part of the program or that have graduated from the program.
Okay. Well, in that case, that makes the answer a lot easier.
Then we can measure it pretty easily from there.
And the other thing we can measure is that, one of the examples that they gave out of one of the success stories was a lot of these stage 2 companies, as Kevin said, are 4 or 5 employee type shops. Well, they have a winning formula, they're profitable, and they love the idea of potentially expanding, or not necessarily franchising, but getting that second shop or that third shop. And a lot of them are retail-based or retail/restaurant-based.
Can you give us an example of like one we have today?
Well, maybe years ago, an example of one would have been like a Garibaldi's. It started in one community, became successful, and expanded to 2 to 3 other communities. That's the type of thing that they talk about, is that, you'll have somebody who can open and run their own business, and it's a great idea and it's doing great, but they don't really understand, okay, now, if I can't actually physically be present over at this other one, how do I go about getting another location? How do I go getting a manager? What about, going through those processes there, hiring the right people, and doing that type of expansion? And, oh, by the way, how do I not hurt my existing business by maybe locating it too close? How do I make sure I'm far enough away to not steal from myself? So those are the type of things they talk about, and when you read some of the information on accelerators, and I can't give you a specific example, because I got to give Ray Rummel, the manager of Elk Grove, credit for coming up with this. He read that article in PM Magazine, which is the magazine, the city manager's magazine, and he called up both myself and Brian Townsend, who's the manager in Schaumburg, and said, hey, read this article and then tell me what you think. And we said, really intriguing, and it went from there. We went down to the incubators in downtown Chicago. The mayors were all invited to see the presentation, and it just kind of grew. And initially, Ray didn't think it would be that you'd see this many villages that wanted to be involved. He was hopeful to end up with 4 or 5 that were semi-contiguous with each other. And to be honest, the biggest drivers for the group were Cook County. There's no press here or anything. The Cook County's not going to ever do anything for the northwest suburbs. If you look at the incentives they have, and yes, we've used 6B, but if you look at the ones they have, they're really dedicated for the city of Chicago and South suburban Cook County, which, as we all know, has some real issues. So they're not going to do anything for us. The state of Illinois is not going to do anything for us. The city of Chicago is doing everything they can right now to suck business back out of the suburbs and downtown. If we don't coalesce and try to find a way to battle it and start being more cooperative with each other, then we're going to be in potentially deep trouble.
So I 100% agree with everything you just said. So the incubators downtown, the incubators downtown, though, are technology incubators. You're talking about retail, which is totally different.
It's
Not
all
necessarily
businesses.
retail specific, it's
No,
all businesses.
I said the example I could easiest remember are retail, but it's all businesses.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's tech, it's industrial, it's everything.
But the ones you saw downtown were predominantly tech, right?
Yeah, and those were incubators,
And they
too.
were
So that was
incubators.
startups. I mean, these are guys that are ready to grow.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, if there's tech companies out here that want to be a part of it, pitch it to us.
That's
Yeah.
right. Exactly.
Now, just to tag on to trustee Palafis, though, you have equal representation by all towns, equal representation by the business leaders that you're going to put in there. But when it comes time to the number of pitches that you're doing at a time, will there be some type of a requirement that each town will get equal representation?
Yeah, so each town is going to have a pitch team for
Okay.
their town. And that'll be from staff here as well as the business community. So you'll get more of the business community involved in those pitch nights to be part of the teams. And again, it's 4 to 5 companies a night. Maybe you do it monthly, maybe we do it quarterly. We haven't figured out all of
But you
the
wouldn't do it where all
details.
5 companies are from Schaumburg or from Elk Grove?
We would do all 5 companies from Hoffman Estates pitching to the Hoffman Estates pitch team. And then from there, we would pick, 2 or 3 of them.
But each town will get a equal number?
Yes, yep,
That's the goal.
yes.
Okay. I mean, that's something I would,
Yes, I mean, that's what we've discussed about it in the meetings. Because again, that was, like I said, Jim and I were just hammering on that point of, we really want this to be equal.
Yeah. okay.
Yeah.
Okay, trustee Newell, then trustee Vandenberg.
Okay, I just have one question. You said that there are several of these villages that are all involved in this. Now, say we go down a year down the line, can other villages just join in on this if they see that this is like progressing really well, or is
Well,
this like shut out for a certain?
That is kind of the hope. Right now, there's one village that will remain nameless that's not doing this because of airplane noise issues, and they're upset at one of the neighboring communities that's helping to lead this. So it's kind of a political reason. We're hoping that after that issue hopefully deadens or silence or some whatever good word for it, and goes away, that they'll join in. But then one of the things we've talked about, and it's not finalized, is that, all right, if we've already made equity contributions in, do they have to catch up? For example, let's say we're in year 2 and we're now in 30 grand. The opinion for most of us is, if you're not a founding person, you have to make an equity contribution to catch up.
Good.
That hasn't been voted on, that's not in the bylaws, that's just, a thought right now. So it wouldn't, the original, yes, there was initially, we had 2 to 3 more communities that were part of the exploratory meetings that have kind of, one for financial reasons, just they don't think they can do $15,000 a year for 3 years, and the other one for a political reason, and the other one just for no interest at all.
Trustee Vandenberg.
I have a couple questions, but one of them goes along those same lines, because I think it's very obvious that Palatine is not in that. Barrington, South Barrington, Elgin, Bartlett, some of our immediate communities.
Believe me, everybody in the northwest suburbs, that has been part of any type of intergovernmental collaborative of this larger group was invited to participate, and they've chosen not to at this time for the same reasons I just mentioned.
Right. What's been your reaction from other communities? You're presenting this to Hoffman Estates, and I'm sure you have a little bit of inside information from other communities, and how is it being received from them?
I think actually we're the
Second or third?
last.
Well, are we really?
Yeah.
Well, I know
Which
Elk
means the
Grove,
press hasn't gone
Elk Grove
over it, so that's
approved it, and everybody's approved it up until us, right?
Okay.
Who is everybody?
Mount Prospect, Buffalo Grove, Elk Grove Village, Schaumburg, Hanover Park. Who am I
Rolling
missing?
Meadows.
Rolling Meadows. Rolling Meadows. Yeah. Would you take that a winning proposition of all stakeholders off, and I could just read them?
My other question is, the board of directors that you have listed, you have your executive director position, and these are just kind of administrative questions, but that is a paid position, right? Being paid for by the municipalities that pay in their money.
Being paid for by the organization, starting with the municipalities,
Right.
seed money,
And-
yeah.
And then the president and their officers and all the executives that are part of that, those are all on a volunteer basis? Or are they also, is that a paid position within the 501c3 organization?
Not at this time.
Right.
Okay.
No, the board of directors would not be.
Because it's a 501c3 and it's not for profit.
Well, and because we're all employed by our communities to do this.
Right. Okay. And if a company comes in, they want to join, they get chosen, they want to come in, and did I miss it, or how much is their buy-in then?
So for the companies, I don't know if we've talked about that.
No.
If there's like an application fee, we'll have to talk about that next time. If there's an application fee for them, I think the thought is if they got picked, it's grants anywhere from $1,500 to maybe $5,000. So not huge grants, but just small amounts. Again, it's mostly the mentorship that is the biggest value to them.
But they're
Yeah,
part of your
Let's make
group.
sure we emphasize that. It's not the cash they're getting that's really the value. The value is the mentorship and the contacts and those type of things.
Right. But they would be buying into this group, so they need to have something, their ROI, to get something out of it too, so. Right?
The companies that are applying for the being accelerated, we'll have to talk about that, because they're not actually joining the group, they're being assisted by the group. When you go to the the Small Business Development Corporation at Harper, and you start talking about that, you're not joining that group, you're getting consulted by that group, and you may have to pay a fee as you go through the process, but it's not like you're joining. Now, those 8 board members that are business board members, I'm sure there'll be some type of minimum threshold of contribution required.
Right, right.
And I think, that's fine.
Okay, those were my questions. Thank you. I think it's a great idea.
What, who do
But
you
there's a lot of
expect,
questions.
who do you expect to actually make donations to this?
I was going to ask.
Sorry. Truthfully, I mean, you say you're going to be hoping to get money in, but where's it going to come from? Who's going to want to
There are
donate to
big
it?
federal grants out there for this now. That's going to be, once
yeah.
we had the 501c3 status, that's the very first step.
Okay, Trustee Stanton, you had a question.
Yeah, I did. What happens if, after the 3 years, the group is not privately funded as expected?
Then we come back to this group and we
You're
either
asking for more money then?
Well, I never want to say never to that, but Kevin can tell you, I've been pretty clear on that, because the Golden Quarter Manufacturing Group, we helped fund it, we got Elk Grove involved, we got Schaumburg involved, and it was supposed to be a 3-year, where they're finishing their,
This was the 4th, 13th.
well, no,
14th,
this coming year is the 4th, I checked.
Yeah.
17 would be the 4th, and they've asked us to continue or at least do 50% in the 4th year, and because of that experience, when this has come up, I've said to the group, then it's 3 years, that's it, it's on its own. And everybody said yes, because if it's not successful by then, it's not going to be.
And it's not going to increase from the 15,000 a
No,
year?
it's capped at 15,000. The contribution to help get the 501c3, and then three $15,000 contributions.
Yeah, so it's a total
Oh,
of
50.
$50,000, yeah.
Right.
Okay, that's it.
Trustee Palafis?
Off of Trustee Mills's comment, I read in here that the private industry contributions that this organization is hoping to receive through fundraising are targeted to raise between 500,000 and $1 million. So again, along the lines, though, that's bigger company spend that normally they would, leverage for R&D. So again, I'm all for it. I just, I'd be interested to see, kind of, there would be those bigger companies that have to come alongside those smaller, or they're looking to inspire incubation, that gives them some kind of IP or something back.
Yep.
So.
Agreed.
Okay, any other questions? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we proceed. Unless, Jim, you want to write the motion again, and, okay. Just saying.
Any other discussion on this? Now, if you're saying that though, all the other communities have already agreed to this? Okay, so it's not to the point where 5 of them are going to back out at the last minute and then
Right.
we're stuck?
Right.
Okay, all right.
It still has to go through the budget processes.
Right.
But that was part of the reason for doing this now, because if we wait for those of us that are on calendar years to get it all the way through the calendar year to January 1, we lose the rest of this month, November, December, to do the 501c3, which, based upon the federal grant deadlines for submittals, we'd lose a whole nother year.
Okay.
And that's really the reason the group decided to push this up a little bit.
Okay. Trustee Palafis?
Last thing, could you do us the favor of updating us a couple times a year if this passes?
Yeah.
Which I'm assuming it will.
It will.
That way, at least we can, defend it as we're asked or inquired. Yeah, or well, Trustee Newell's asking for quarterly, so we like it when you present, Kevin, so.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing. If people ask, tell them about it too, because that's going to be part of it, is getting the word out to the businesses, just letting them know that this program and these services are there for them. A lot of times, the small business owner is so involved in their business, which is a good thing and it's needed, but a lot of times they don't take a look around to see what's right there, the helping hand that's right there
A
for
lot
them.
of times they
So-
don't have the time, too.
Yeah,
That's part of
exactly.
it. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
quarterly updates through PB&Z, I'm assuming?
How about if we do the written quarterly updates to PB&Z, and then if you want to, like this, we can always do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, at least get it in writing. so you have
Because
something.
my thought is that we would be bringing
Yeah.
the new, whenever the executive director hire, that would be part of their job.
Right. Agree.
Okay.
And I would imagine that there would be some sort of brochure, pamphlet, something
At some point,
informational, informational thing.
right. Right, and again, remember the staging that Kevin showed. We're still just getting off the ground infancy. We have no staff other than the economic development directors and the managers who have been pooling time, and thank you to Kevin for his leadership and with the group.
It was a good presentation, too. Yeah.
I think that the higher-end officers from some of the companies that you're going to go to for advice and mentorship, and that, they're probably the COOs of companies, and they're very busy. They're where they are because they're running a company, and they're traveling, and they're I'll be curious to see how much time they're actually able to give your group.
It is interesting, and you may be the COO of a great company, but you may be a really terrible mentor. And so that's kind of the other thing to figure out, is how to run a company, but you don't know how to teach somebody to run their company. So that's kind of going to be the other vetting process, is finding not only mentors, but good mentors. So yeah, it'll be a fun challenge.
Some of them will be retired,
Exactly. Yep.
mentors, too.
Just to break in, Arietta just hit a 3-run homer for the Cubs.
Arietta did?
The pitcher?
Wow.
Did he?
Good for the pitchers. And I apologize, I couldn't be at the Economic Development Commission meeting last week, but did you bring this up at that time?
I didn't. I wanted to present it to you guys first.
I was
and
just curious to
I'll
see
give
if there
them
was
a-
any reaction.
I'll give them an email update now on
Okay,
this. So
good. All right.
If we pass it, then it goes to the budget committee for a line item on that. Is that the next step?
Yes,
For
well,
us.
it will be presented as part of the to the finance committee, yes.
So this won't take effect till the first of the year?
The $5,000 will.
No.
Right.
Who's not on the mic?
The $5,000 will now.
Okay.
The
and the 15
$15,000
will
would be January 1.
Okay.
Super.
All right, we have a motion on the floor unless there's any other questions or discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you very much, Kevin.
For your time.
All right, next, number 2, request acceptance of Department of Development Services monthly report for Planning Division.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything to highlight? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Number 3, request acceptance of Department of Development Services monthly report for Code Enforcement Division.
So moved.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything to highlight with code? And I see a hand up.
I don't know if you saw the metrics, but I emailed Pete today. There's only 2 non-compliers at this time, and they're both in court, so
I did see that.
hats
Maybe
off
wondered
to the
who they
group.
were.
Yeah, Patty's got them on lockdown, so.
Good. Anything else to highlight with code?
Nothing else.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Number 4, request acceptance of Department of Development Services monthly report for economic development and tourism.
So moved.
A second.
Anything you want to highlight?
You've
from
heard
that?
enough from me already.
Never. Okay, any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We've been here long enough. Did the president have anything else to report?
No, President has nothing else to report.
Okay. We have anything else to come before this committee tonight? We do have one item in review, and that's the request direction on the final disposition of the Bergman Farmhouse located on the north side of Algonquin Road, west of Ela Road. Is that coming back next month?
It very well could.
Unknown yet? Okay.
No, we've had one good meeting, now we're
Okay.
hoping that will result in something positive, and then. we'll go
Okay.
from there.
And you're not in the microphone again. You're about to be told.
Yes, it'll come back in November.
Thank you.
You're in trouble.
Seeing nothing else to come before this committee, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it, and we hope the Cubs win.